I'm calling the meeting to order. This is a regular meeting for the City Commission, Monday, November 25th, 2019. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our invocation this evening is Ellen Beerline. Is she here? Okay, well, then we'll just proceed on. I'd like to introduce Joanne, Devin Hazar. David Heiser, that makes it too easy. David Heiser and Julie Piach, and from the Michigan State Extension and Product Center. Would you want to come forward and make your presentation, please?
I want to ask Julie to join me here. Some weeks ago, and I want to thank you for allowing us to be part of your program tonight.
We
Some
love
weeks
having
ago,
you
we
here.
at the Michigan State University Extension and MSU Product Center, we recognized exceptional entrepreneurs in food and agriculture at our conference, Making Michigan Conference, and because of the unseasonal weather and such, Steve was not able to join us for that presentation, so we thought we'd come right here back home to do it. So at this time, I wanted to have Julie present Michigan, the 2019 Value Added Agriculture Award to Steve Bleckmeyer on behalf of recognizing the farmhouse business here in Buchanan, related to his farm orchard, making wonderful products and making beautiful use of your building.
So the award is signed by Jeff Dwyer, the director of MSU Extension and acting director of the Product Center. So congratulations. Thank you so much.
Better pose for pictures. Let's get some pictures. Yeah, get in on the pictures. We want to get this recorded, so. And congratulations, Steve. Congratulations.
We have a little video that
okay.
Brenda's going to run for us to give you some background.
Great.
That's it.
Lehman's Farmhouse is just an extension of Lehman's Orchard. So Lehman's Orchard is our orchard in Niles, Michigan, and it's been in the family since 1929. 2015, I bought this building. It was vacant, but it was formerly a Clark Lab. It was part of the Clark Equipment Company, and it was dilapidated and needed a new roof. None of my crews were running around it, and you can see through to the stars. So it really needed a lot of work. We did all sorts of improvements on it, and we developed it into our modern store here. We have all sorts of value-added products. The local community, they've been very pleased with what we've done. So enthusiastic about using an old space in a new way. Well, I would say unlimited resources. They're more than willing to help. What they don't know, they'll find out. They're not partial. I mean, they're an independent voice, and they take a really neutral view of what you're doing and can give you an accurate assessment of whether or not it's going to work. What puts a smile on my face is the variety of my work. So every day is different. Every day has a new challenge, and I like variety. I'm Steve Bleckmeyer from Lehman's Orchard, Brewery and Farmhouse, and I'm the 2019 Value Added Agricultural Award winner from Michigan State University Extension and the MSU Product Center.
Let's one more time for applauding the great video. And thank you for coming and presenting that.
Thank
That
you.
was very nice of you. Okay. Let's have roll call, please.
Moore,
Here.
Dennison,
Here.
Downey,
Here.
Turney,
Here.
Whedon.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. We will now hear public comments. Citizens are allowed up to 3 minutes to discuss any item on the agenda. Okay, seeing no one rise, we're going to move on to the consent. Oh, okay, Jeff.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Jeff Griffin, 313 Macomber Street. I used to be a business owner in Buchanan, and who knows what the future will bring, but I've had the pleasure of being at some meetings the last couple of months and watching some voting going on and watching some things around the community. And I just hope that, you people are chosen from the community. You put your name in, you take a big responsibility. I just hope that you really vote for the people and not what just hits your heart or, makes you think, oh, that's not right to myself. You're voting for the people and you're voting for something. And I watched some things at the planning and zoning, and I've watched things here, and I just hope, I don't know, but I just hope that it's really coming from what Buchanan needs, okay? That's all I ask.
Thank you,
I
Jeff.
appreciate that.
Thank you for your comments. Is anyone else wanting to come forward and make a comment? Okay, not seeing anyone coming up. We'll move on to the consent calendar. As far as I know, we don't have any changes to that, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll make the motion to approve tonight's consent calendar.
Okay, thank you. Is there support?
I'll support.
All right, thank you. We have motion and support. Let's have roll call, please.
Moore,
Yes?
Dennison,
Yes.
Downey,
Yes.
Turney,
Yes.
Whedon.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Excellent, thank you. We're now to our reports, the Southwest Michigan Economic Growth Alliance, Niles Chamber of Commerce update with David Eifler and Jeff Ray. Please come forward, gentlemen. Hello.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dave Eifler. I happen to live in Buchanan. I'm also the chairman of the Greater Niles Chamber of Commerce now. Last year, we were called SMEGA, which is an acronym for the economic group. We spent a lot of time last year, quite a bit of time actually, merging the old Chamber of Commerce with our economic development group. Bill Marks is on our board, as am I. Small board now of 12 people doing both chamber work as well as economic development work. And really, that was driven for budgetary concerns. We have a real limited budget, and we wanted to be as efficient as possible. Last year, we had an executive director, Barclay Garrett, who was here doing presentations. He subsequently moved back to Alabama, which is where he was from, so the tide ruled on that one, I guess. Keep telling him go blue, but he doesn't listen to me. Today, though, what we wanted to do was explain what we've done in the past year or so since we were here last. We've done a lot of work, merging the units together. We sought out people to help us to be more efficient. We hired Jeff Ray from South Bend Chamber of Commerce to do a lot of our backroom and personnel issues and help run the agency for a fee, which was wonderful. We didn't have to employ people 100% of the time. We were able to contract him on more of an hourly basis, and that cut down our overhead quite a little bit. So as opposed to going backwards, we're going a little bit forwards nowadays, which was great. And with that, Jeff was able to bring a lot of assets to bear from the South Bend Chamber that we couldn't deliver before. So that was good for all of us. So really this year was kind of block and tackling, getting our feet under us, trying to drive it forward on a bigger circle. We really cover Niles and Buchanan and the townships around us. We also contain a good part of Cass County now as well. They're all kind of directives for economic development. Still do a lot of the chamber work, as you're aware. Niles is part of that. And it's really been an interesting road for a year. But Jeff, you can tell us what we've accomplished, but it's been a pretty good year overall.
Hi, Jeff Ray, Greater Niles Chamber of Commerce, also South Bend Regional Chamber. Thank you for the chance to spend just a couple of minutes with you. As Dave mentioned, earlier this year we were brought on to sort of assist with some of the back office support, thinking that given our experience in South Bend and kind of the fact that the Niles and Buchanan areas were part of really the South Bend economy, or the South Bend area economy, it made some sense to have some synergies there. So I always, when I'm describing it, sometimes say our economic boundary and our political boundaries are a little bit different, and we were really focused on the economic boundaries. And so we've been really enjoyed being here, I think, since the beginning of the year. So the Greater Niles Chamber itself has been around, or Four Flags Chamber, for about 100 years. We celebrated earlier this year, and I really won't go through everything there. I just wanted to give you a couple high levels, and I want to touch on a few things. As we reorganized at the beginning of the year, we really reorganized under three primary focus: doing economic development, doing business advocacy, and taking care of our members. We have about 300 member investors that are part of our organization that we work really close to. Economic development being the key. What we've told our members, I think, since day one is we intend to deliver the same level of service or even a higher level than SMEGA was doing. I think one of our challenges sometimes is even how we staff economic development, and I run into this in South Bend as well, and so if there were some synergies that could happen across the state line, we thought there was some real benefit. So for example, when I'm hosting an opportunity zone investor in South Bend, there's some Michigan opportunity zones as well, or when I'm hosting venture capital folks in from California, there's some Michigan opportunities as well. So we brought them up to CNS Machine, for example, to sort of see what's happening up there. So we like the opportunity when leads come in. Companies are really looking at buildings or property, and I put in there just a list of kind of the main criteria people are using in economic development today. I highlighted on there in particular the available buildings, because this year we managed over 100 different companies looking at opportunities here in our region, and 82 of them asked for an existing building. And so that has been our number one challenge in South Bend, was finding buildings that met that need. And that's a similar challenge that we face on this side of the state line as well too. People have been searching for existing buildings, and the lack of that has meant not as many projects have moved forward as we'd hoped. I also in there included our business recruitment plan. So this year we went out to 12 different states and 35 different events to sell Southwest Michigan and Northern Indiana. So you see a map there and the different events that we were there. We're working in those areas to develop relationships with site selectors, real estate professionals, help them understand what Southwest Michigan and Northern Indiana have to offer. And then as they dial into a specific building facility, that's when we're able to better direct them to a particular geography. I also just included a couple of things in there about the region and some of the things that are happening. I mentioned this economic boundary, and we think of that as being really Berrien Cass on the northern side of the state line, and then St. Joe, Elkhart, Marshall counties on the southern side of the state line. So really the 5 counties is our focus area. I included in there some of the goals, some of the industries, some of the things we're trying to do on the entrepreneur side as well. And then the last couple were just more of the pieces, because you guys play a really important role in this as well. So we can be the best salespeople, but the things that you're doing each day to make Buchanan better is really helping that effort as well too. So on the growing a vibrant region, there's a lot of things in there with right zoning, with roads and transportation and public spaces, the right zoning, the right building codes, all of those kind of stuff. None of this happens very well if you guys don't do the good work that you're doing as well too. So this year we had a couple of successes, as Dave mentioned, INDEC being the biggest one. That's a 20-year in the making. That happened primarily before I was heavily involved, but for 20 years the folks in our community have been working on that. And how that benefits you is that 600 people are on the ground working now for that over the next 30 months. And so that many of those people have bought houses in this area here. They're living here, they're working here, they're shopping here while they're constructing that plant. It also becomes a tremendous piece of our tax base here in Southwest Michigan as this $1 billion investment comes online in several years. So even though it's not in your physical boundary, we hope that you're benefiting from that as well as Buchanan folks have a chance to work at that facility, or people that work in there have a chance to live over here as well too. A number of other, I would say, key projects. The Buchannan Industrial Park continues to be a really important piece of the economy. See a new project happening out there now, and folks like CNS Machine and others growing out there. And so we're excited about those opportunities. Again, shovel-ready sites or available buildings are the two things driving development these days. And so we're excited to see some of that. And I think that maybe the other thing that you've done so well that we have envy of sometimes is what you've done in your downtown area. And so when I think of Niles and Buchanan and some of the downtowns, the preservation of those is really critical. And so as folks are looking for projects and looking for places to live this day and age, they're looking for communities that have a great quality of life. And so that's, wasn't, for a long time people worried about, what the taxes looked like and what the utility rates were and such, but that quality of life is an important piece. So the investments you've made to continue to preserve your downtown and improve that quality of life, I think it will help us long term as we're working to attract other opportunities in the area. Just very high level, again, I have a packet there for you can read through, and I'm happy to meet at some other time even and go through more detail if you have some questions. But I'd be happy to answer some questions right now too if you had specific questions for me.
Are there questions? Sean?
You touched on a little bit with the index project. The city of Buchanan is pretty small, and we don't have a lot of available land, and we don't have a lot of available buildings, but we do have quality of life.
Yep.
And I'm curious, how do you sell that to people when you're, when you're dealing? I drive down the bypass every day, and I see those buildings working their way farther this way towards the line. I think, what a great place to live and be able to go work, but still come back here to live. How do you sell Buchanan?
Yeah, so a couple things. I think schools are traditionally one of the key decision makers for folks. So certainly the schools that we see in Southwest Michigan are really a critical piece of that. Decision makers, if people want to live somewhere where they're going to find that opportunity. I'll be honest, we have some challenges on the other side of the state line with a couple of those schools, and so right away that helps drive some people this way. I'd say that's maybe number one. Two, the pricing, the cost of living is an important piece of that. So as people are looking at housing prices in particular, I think that's a driver here, as you're very competitive on the housing price thing. I think proximity is another one. So the ability to really get anywhere in our region in just a really short period of time is pretty critical for us, and so I think that's another. So I would call basically those kind of things. It's really interesting because people are looking for different things when they're looking for a place to live, and so some want the bigger urban, some want a little more room to spread out, and so we feel like sometimes we're almost dragging them here one at a time and finding them that right opportunity. And I'll use an example maybe over on the other side of the county where as the medical practices in particular are having a little bit of a challenge. How do I recruit a dentist, an optometrist, a doctor to these small towns to come practice? And that's where sort of this economic boundary has really helped us quite a bit. So some of those have thought, yes, I'd like to work there, I'd like to live here, or vice versa. And so I think what we've tried to do, if nothing else, is break down this invisible wall, if you will, that used to exist for a long time, and make sure people understand what those opportunities are. And I think what you're doing, like I say, downtown, housing-wise, all those are big sells because as that comes north, I think there's some good opportunities. And when you look too on the South Bend side, so we're at the state line now with development there right off the bypass. You also see some opportunities on the northwest side of South Bend. Both of those will position this part of Michigan for some continued growth in terms of helping support both of those.
Any other questions? Do you know what the dues will be for the next year that?
They'll be the same as next year.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've tried to really put a hold on kind of where they're, ask folks to trust us during this transition in particular, because sort of pulling together 40 years of SMEG and 100 years of the chamber's just taken a little bit of time for us to put together. But I think we're really excited about what this means for the long term. Again, so what we hope is that instead of having, you traditionally had one person or 1.5 people available to you at SMEGA, you now have 22 people available to you. So through our contract relationship with South Bend, so our idea is if we needed to deploy our entire team towards developing a marketing piece, updating a website, working on a specific project, we now have a deeper pool than we had before to do that.
Okay.
I think too, is we haven't announced it specifically, but today's a good day, I guess. But part of the Four Flags, we used to own the Four Flags Plaza, that big tower in Niles, we sold that, and we made a gain of about $2.5 million. So people say, well, where'd all that money go, We actually gave that to the Hunter Foundation permanently. We don't want the money, we want the interest, the benefits. And each year, we're gonna make loans and gifts to our member companies to help get better. So as a member of our group, the Niles and the Buchanan companies now can do that as well. So starting the first quarter of this next year, we'll have our annual stipend to start giving that money away and letting it, for small business, that's what it's for. Even startups, to go from small to big, to medium, to get large of those. So that's something new we haven't even started yet. I think we have 3 applications now we're looking at.
Right.
You know, so we anticipate doing, well, we are gonna do it forever. That money's there for all eternity, which is nice.
And I think the example, just maybe the video is a great example. Let's say you had that building that that maybe redevelopment was complicated, maybe the numbers didn't work exactly, maybe the bank, bankers can be difficult sometimes loaning,
No.
but maybe there's a gap, trying to
Yeah.
make that project work. Let's say that the entrepreneur wanted to do that, it was really important to the town to sort of get that building back into productive use. That grant program will be available. So we would envision probably $20,000 to $30,000 in that range, and starting by January 1st, we'll have a number of those available each year. And as Dave
Yeah.
mentioned, this will be in perpetuity because
Yeah,
of that.
we'll have $100,000 a year to spend,
Oh,
which is a lot of money
that's great.
forever, which
Yeah.
is great. So every year we're going to evolve that program, but again, because Buchanan participates, they're in, we're in too. But we'll take applications soon and as it evolves, but it's going to be 100,000 every year for always. Yes, sir.
So if somebody wants to come to you, this information that we have on the back of this pamphlet, this is how they contact for the grant program if a business wants to
Yep, and
possibly
how the
have a
grants
grant?
work, just so you know, is we'll take a bunch of applications from the public, we'll go to our board of directors, then we'll decide if it makes sense, and we'll advance it to the Hunter, and the Hunter will write the check.
So I would anticipate about January 1st, those applications being available to businesses that wanted to do that. We already have talked to some right now that have said, boy, I'm looking at again, sometimes it's this old building that sat
Yeah.
empty for a long time that we'd like to sort of make something happen in. or something
120,000
like that.
short or
So-
something, okay, understand.
So, but the formal application will be available soon and
You
starting
know-
January.
You will probably notify the city when that's,
We sure will. Yep.
Well, Bill's on the board, so.
Yep.
that's true. Very good. That's a very good program.
Yeah,
That's
it's amazing.
something, yeah.
And nice, I think, that the board had the fortitude to think about how to do this long-term. Sometimes when you have a financial windfall, the challenge is to make some initial investments. The fact, though, that we're going to sort of have this be a long-term economic impact on the communities that we serve is a pretty important thing.
I like it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah.
So you had mentioned that you'd go from 1 to 22 and beyond, I would imagine, right? And we have an extensive amount of information about Niles and South Bend, and that's wonderful, right? And we all shop there and entertain there and drive there. What, I guess, and what are you going to offer to Buchanan? Not necessarily a permanent individual or a group of people in particular, but is that something that we're going to see more action on and involved with Bill or our future city manager beyond, years beyond? And if we continue to pay this money, are we going to see a value add, right? We're talking about value added tonight through Steve, and we want to feel like there's a value add to the money that we expense to access this greater amount of people. Are we going to see a return on that investment is basically.
Yeah, no, so I would say absolutely. So we work on behalf of the businesses and the communities that are investors in ours. So your input is really critical. It's why we gave you a spot on the board of directors so that you could sort of help guide maybe the future direction. Our hope is that if you had a specific need for the community, if it was an advertising piece that helps sell Buchanan, I've got graphic design, marketing, all those people on my staff to do those kind of pieces. So part of this is we need you to help us understand the things that will help best sell. We're going to go out and try to sell this area, help people understand where the opportunities are to live and work and do those kind of things. And I would say on the commercial and industrial building and property stuff, that's something we're working close with the city on if there are opportunities to promote future opportunities there. Like I said, they got to sort of be shovel ready, zone right, ready to go, or else people aren't really looking too much now. So I think so as we better understand, kind of what the city's long-term growth needs are, I think we're in a better chance to market that. But your input's really critical to us in doing that. We want to make sure you always have a seat at that table so you can help direct that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
being here
Yeah,
tonight.
appreciate it. Nice to see you.
And we have no unfinished business. We'll move on to new business. And let's discuss the approval of repairs to the Jack Knight Memorial Chapel roof at Oak Ridge Cemetery.
Mayor and Commissioners, in your packet, you received some quotes for the repair of the Jack Knight Chapel roof. Larry Money is actually here tonight as well, but he brought that issue up to us in previous commission meetings. We've done our darndest to try to find contractors to actually arrive, give us a quote, and that. Of the 7 contractors we've contacted, Bill Ruth, a local contractor, supplied a quote of $12,000 to redo the roof completely with architectural shingle. And then we also have future construction, which has done work for the city in the past. Some of our roofs have been repaired by this company, and their quote was
11,750.
yeah, there we go. And their quote, Bill incorporated a lot of the suspected roof repair, decking repair in his quote. Future provided us like 3 sheets of plywood included in that $97.50 price, but then it would be $50 per sheet of plywood if there was additional needs for deck repairs to happen. So, you know, the futures construction, that dollar amount could go up depending on what they find once they remove the tiles, but they're significantly less dollars than what Bill Ruth quoted.
Does anyone want to weigh in on that? Any questions about it?
Yeah, we were able to get 2 contractors out of the 7 we've contacted. If you wanted to wait, we can still pursue additional or whatever.
I hate to be a stickler, but, so the only estimate we have from Bill Ruth is, it shows $2,500, it says ballpark labor.
Yeah.
And then it says time and materials may be best for this job. It doesn't say, it doesn't have the $12,000 price on there or whatever you said his quote was for.
You are correct, that is missing from the packet. That's my suggestion, is that we maybe wait till the next meeting, and I'll get you that missing quote that should have been part of this packet, so.
I'm interested in waiting to the next
Yeah.
meeting. I'd like to see if,
the full quote.
well, and if we can entertain a few more
Yep.
contractors, if they're willing to come out and do it. I know you're waiting for them.
We've tried, and we'll continue to pursue that, and hopefully at least get one more, so you have 3 quotes to work with.
So I'll entertain a motion to postpone this item until, what, the next meeting, or what?
I'll make a motion to table it until the next meeting pending further quotes.
I'll support.
Any other discussion? Have a roll call, please.
Downey?
Yes. I didn't, was that me?
Yes. Oh, sorry. Moore?
Yes.
Turney?
Yes.
Whedon?
Yes.
Dennison?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, next item, B, consider options for city residential recycling. Carrie Randinger, Republic Services.
Good evening. I believe Bill gave you the letter that I had sent him that
Correct.
indicated back in September, for our contract, we're required to take all the recyclables to Southeast Berrien County. they shut us off. They're not accepting recyclables, so in the interim, we've been recycling them and taking them elsewhere at greater cost to us. And so I propose, we can't continue to absorb that cost, so I propose three different options to, one of them I'm not a fan of, I'll be honest with you, and that would be stopping the recycling program, because you never know where the future is going to go in recycling. And typically when you stop something like this, it's so hard to get everybody to get back on board. And so wouldn't be my choice, just to be honest with you. The other choice would be to increase the cost that we charge, or the rate that we charge the residents. Or the third option would be to have the city pay it to us. And you have the approximate price is $1.40, I believe it is, a month for residents. If we would bill the residents at $600 a month, roughly, it's all based on tonnage. $600 a month if the city decided to subsidize it.
Are there questions?
And that, excuse me, Jesus. So the additional $1.40 a month is assessed only for individuals who, I'm assuming, have the containers to.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. Those that are participating.
All right.
Correct.
Any other questions? Would that amount change if there were to be a change in the availability of a closer recycler?
Well, I haven't spoke personally to anybody from the landfill to find out if they have any plans to revive, I guess you would say, the program out there. But in the other instances, it'd be something we'd probably have to review, I would say, once a year or something like that, to be fair, as prices go up or down. They are true commodities, so I don't have a crystal ball. I would tell you, in my opinion, I would hope that they're about as bad as they're going to get. But I also believe that this is probably the new reality in recycling. It's probably here to stay, something in this ballpark price-wise.
Commissioner Turner?
I'm on the landfill board. They still are looking to see if there's any other possible measures. As of right now, they don't find any. I will basically send an email out to Tyler, who's the general manager, to see if there's any new timeline when they might be receiving recyclables again. And I can get back to the city to the issue here. Their next general meeting won't be this month.
Right.
So right now they even took the bins away from the where people can go there and dump them. Styrofoam, everything that's gone, you know. So that's my update on that.
And in either case, any one of those other options, other than quitting the program altogether or canceling it, should they get back into it, then they say we can do it. Well, before it was nothing, but now it might be 30 or 90, like we pay or whatever. We could look at it that time again and reevaluate it.
Right. Everybody's reevaluating at this particular time. Tyler's trying to find out. He's working hard on it. It's just that there's just nobody.
Stuff?
Yeah.
Recycling stuff?
And they have to make a decision.
That would be your indicator to maybe ask Recycle to come back if you notice when the board is presented with the idea that they're going to be bringing back recycling. I could entertain the idea of this cost in the discussion.
Yeah, if I find out in our board meetings that there's a possibility where they're going to reinstitute recycling, but the big thing is, like he said, is tonnage. You know, what they're going to charge per ton. But yeah, if they say, yeah, okay, 3 months from now we're going to restart and it's going to be at such and such tonnage, then I can forward it on to Republic, or actually I'll have Tyler contact Republic and say, hey, this is what's going on, and then through the meetings I can tell you what the final decisions. Does that sound reasonable?
That's perfect. Yeah.
And then depending on which option you chose, whether it was to have the city subsidize it, obviously that would go straight if it came in at $10 a ton.
Right.
That's what the charge would be, $10
Mhm.
a ton. If we did it with the residents paying it, then we could adjust it accordingly as well.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, well, thank you for
Thank you.
presenting that. We appreciate it. And my understanding is we're going to discuss this at a later time. Is that correct? Or was someone wanting to make a motion now? I mean,
I think it would be nice to be able to mull it over and talk to people around
okay,
town.
that's fine, so there's
Okay.
no motion.
Let
I
me-
just don't want to move on if someone's going to make a motion.
Let me do this, if I could. I'll make the motion that we're going to discuss this for another month so that I can get back to the landfill and see what is their thoughts in the next, let's say, 12 months, so that if we come back next month and we have a more, better understanding of where we're going. Either there's a possibility that there's going to be a new recyclable or not. Does that sound?
Bill?
We can ask Tyler to be at our next meeting, to get it right from him, what their status is. I know they've been working on something, but.
Yes. What I can do, Bill, I can actually email Tyler tonight and send an update.
What was the timeframe from Cary when it was going to either be stopped or that we needed to?
Stop now.
Is it stopped now? Okay.
Yeah, you can't even take your, said styrofoam or anything, they've taken away those containers over at the landfill where people can go in individually.
So is Republic still picking up recycling? 'Cause
At the
then-
moment, yes.
Okay, that's when I question is what are they, because I still place it out at the curb every other
There's-
Thursday.
But they're looking for a timeline so that they have to.
So they're going to continue to eat the cost until we have a final
Well,
determination?
Maybe one more month, I would say,
Right.
and then they want a decision.
Okay, all right.
But I'll email Tyler tonight, and I'll try to get a response back. If I get it, then I'll forward it on to everybody on the board and naturally to the city commissioner and the city clerk, and then try to get Tyler here at the next meeting. Does that
Okay,
sound?
so let's put that on our agenda for the next meeting. I think that will be sufficient, rather than to have to make a motion.
So we don't have to make a motion?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, let's go on to item C, consider approval of the adult use permit application form.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. In your packet, you have a draft form of the application for adult use marijuana establishment permit. And this is modeled very closely after our medical marijuana permit, trying to ask for the basic information. And because we are working with our existing medical marijuana facilities, the information at the very beginning is all required, but then right before number 2, on the top of page 2, I talk about eligibility, and I added that because with micro businesses, we don't have any existing micro businesses, so they would need to provide all of the information that's being asked for here. And the information, I basically took the language right out of our police power ordinance so that everything hopefully ties together. And then I do say that for the first 24 months after everything is approved, we will only work with our medical marijuana partners. And that if nothing has changed since either their original permit from us or their renewal permit from us, they can indicate that. If there are any changes, then we would need to know what those are. And at the end, I've added, I've had the oath of application, and I've added a statement for that signature to be notarized. Also, on the date box, the city clerk signs it and dates it so that we have the date and the time when the application is submitted. I have had an opportunity to meet Shelley Edgerton, who was the former director of the Bureau of Medical Marijuana Regulations, AKA Bummer, we used to call that, now the MRA, and she did take a look at it, and she thought it was on point. She suggested that if we did not want to do the oath of application, we could add an attestation like the state does. They both should do the same thing. They both require a notary. I'd like to keep the oath of affirmation because by doing an attestation, I would have to try and anticipate every facet of every business because there's a box to check. Where for the state, it's just, is a municipality in or out? Do you have police power ordinance? Do you have the zoning ordinance? Those are basically the same 3 questions. But we asked for quite a bit of information here, so I'm hoping that with your approval, we can get this application approved. I can put it on the website, and the process that we've had in the last round, if you will, of applications was to ask for 1 application rather than 5 notebooks, and then we route that application through the staff, so it would go through the same process that the applications go through, the original application and the renewal applications. And then when everyone has signed off and had all their questions answered, then it would come to you for your consideration and approval. So I would be happy to answer any questions, if you have comments, suggestions.
Does anyone have a comment on the form? I think it looks very good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any comments, questions, a motion to approve?
I will make a motion to approve the adult use permit application form.
I will second that.
Great, we have a motion and a second. Any other conversation before we take a vote? Are we ready for the
I have
question?
a question. How often are we going to have them, or, I know there was some discussion on making sure people were doing what they say they were gonna do in these permits, applications. How often are we going to be checking to make sure that they're doing what they say they're going to be doing? Is that,
Well, the
laid out
permit
anywhere?
itself is good for a year. They have to go to the way they're going to start now is they have to go to the Planning Commission for a special use permit. In the past, we had granted an extension of 12 months. Typically, a special use is only guaranteed for 6 months. That's something that we could consider because the Planning Commission as well has commented that we've approved permits. Or within a year, we would need to know. On the application itself, my main intent for this was gathering the information. When the approval is given, that would be when you as the City Commission could say, we need this is approved contingent upon us seeing whatever it is that we want to look for. Again, right now we're going to be working with our medical marijuana facilities, but I have emailed and gotten responses back from those people who we haven't heard or seen anything from. And those projects are all moving along for a variety of reasons. But yes, I agree. They know that we want to see progress as soon as we can.
okay, thanks.
Okay, are we ready for the vote? Any other comments, questions? Okay, roll call, please.
All set? Whedon,
Yes.
Turney,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Downey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great,
Excellent.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and then let's go on to the next one, since you're here.
Just let me go get my ordinance, please.
Okay. Consider approval of the zoning ordinance amendment to allow marijuana establishments as a special use within the city of Buchanan.
Okay, Mayor and Commissioners, this ordinance is the ordinance that was our draft 3 at the work sessions that we had. That was approved by everyone who was there. So this is the copy. Again, it's the final draft 3 with the corrections that we made after our final workshop. This was the ordinance that the Planning Commission reviewed and recommended for approval last week on the 19th. in accordance with our charter, I did publish a summary of the ordinance. It was appeared in the Niles Daily Star. Is it still the Daily Star? On the 22nd, and I do have copies actually to check to see that it was printed. At the Planning Commission meeting, we did have comments both for and against the ordinance, and the majority of the planning commissioners did approve the ordinance as written, recommending it for approval by the commission. And I did put on your desk today the minutes, they're pending approval of both the public hearing and the planning commission so that you could take a look at those. I would welcome your vote of approval, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Other questions about the zoning board?
Going through this for a long time.
Yes, we have.
You need a motion, Mary?
Yes, I'd love one.
I would make the motion that we approve to allow to allow marijuana establishments as a special use within the city of Buchanan.
Well, you're approving the zoning ordinance amendment.
Right.
I didn't put that in, okay. I'll make a motion to approve the zoning ordinance amendment 2019-11-414 to allow marijuana establishments as a special use within the city of Buchanan.
Very good. Is there support?
Just had a question quick before the second.
Can we? Sorry.
Go ahead and answer. Yeah, since we're waiting for a second, go ahead and
That's
answer
I
your
wanted to
question.
mention something. There's been a considerable amount of emails sent out recently, and I think that they have a justifiable point to their emails, and I think that they've been kindly put. I think the requests and the entertainment of this discussion is necessary for the simple fact that I'm very curious to hear from the remaining commissioners as well as myself about the opportunity for retail businesses being an industrial park. And I think that if we continue to just push this down the street and not have further discussion, I realize this has been discussed far less than the approval of recreational marijuana being sold in the city. I don't know that we've put as much thought and consideration into the potential of it being in the industrial and how that will affect the opportunity for retail sales downtown. If anybody's
So
following.
right now, we have a motion, and there is no second. So once again, I'm asking, is there a second for the motion? So we should be able to discuss it after that. I'll provide the second. Okay, so anyone want to weigh in on the industrial park adult marijuana usage issue? No,
I will.
yes?
I mean, I can.
And
I spent 20
he's
minutes.
asking for input, so he's asking for
I'll give my
input,
input,
so.
always. I gave it at the last meeting and the microphones didn't work, so the YouTube is blank. My take, first I'll say, I agree 100% with the downtown business owners that foot traffic is extremely important to the success of downtown. But I think that it's going to take a whole lot more than foot traffic from adult use retail sales to make downtown viable long term. If anything is going to make retail successful downtown, it's not retail downtown. The way I look at the permits, there's 5 retail permits in the downtown and uptown. 5 retail dispensaries are not going to survive downtown. Public need will not support it, and competition to win patrons will close some of them even if there were 5. By allowing 2 of those permits to leave downtown, we're opening an opportunity for 2 new creative business plans to move into the downtown for consumption or something that we aren't even thinking of. You know, we've always had a retail district downtown, and why hasn't it been successful for the last 20 years? In my estimation, it's because of jobs. When there's employment opportunities available in our community, people are more likely to move here, settle here, and once they live here, they're more likely to shop here, eat here, and be more invested here. 90% of our population leaves here every day to go to work, and while they're there, whether it be South Bend or St. Joe, they eat lunch, they fill their tanks, they stop for groceries before heading home, etc. In my opinion, our responsibility as a commission is to do what's best for the entire city of Buchanan. And what we're doing here, I believe, is creating an environment where businesses that are wanting to invest in Buchanan can be successful. You know, it doesn't matter to me if you're, what widget you're producing. If you're investing in the community, you're creating employment opportunities, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you're successful. While I agree with the downtown owners about foot traffic, I don't agree that this is going to take foot traffic away from downtown. There has to be more than just retail marijuana sales.
Anyone else want to make a comment? I'll weigh in. Basically, I think our job here is to provide this economic opportunity for this new industry. We don't really know until things, how things are going to happen, how they'll fall out. Some people will be benefited, others may not be so benefited. But our responsibility is to open this up to the group that we've been working with, our partners that we've been working with this whole time. It doesn't seem to me like a fairness situation where all of a sudden we're going to tell some of these people that we've been partnering with that there's something that we don't want them to do because they entered into a location which we opened up for them to enter into. So I don't really think that's a fair thing. Is it going to, I have some people that think there's 5 is too many downtown or whatever. It's really a free market situation. So if you want to succeed in your marijuana business, you're going to have to be better than the other 4 people in some way. Better service, better staffing, better product, better price. Like all of those business components that really make a business viable. Are we driving people to an industrial park? No, no more than we are forcing people to go downtown. The option is for people to do what they choose to do, and I believe in freedom. I think the patients and or adult use purveyors or consumers should be free to go to whichever is suitable for them. All of those things should be available. Why should we tell someone to go into one form or another or drive them in some way and disadvantage people we've already been working with when we basically invited them to do that? So I don't think it makes sense as a governmental thing. I don't think it makes sense in a business sense. I think it's people entered into these locales knowing that it's going to be a very tough competitive environment, and I welcome that because especially for the medical marijuana, that hopefully will drive the costs down to the patients, and I'm all for that. So it's going to be their business acumen that will either make the foot traffic what they want it to be. It will mean that the other adjacent buildings and building owners and businesses will either figure out a way to live peacefully and in a cohesive manner with their neighbors that will maybe drive people to the downtown, whereas that is going to be something that the industrial park places will not have that advantage. So it can either be a disadvantage or an advantage depending on your business acumen. I just don't think we should be, cutting our nose off to spite our face before this industry really has a chance to get rolling. Yes.
And Sean and Mayor, thank you guys for your discussion. And I think more importantly, the reason I brought that up, and I know that it seems that we're drawing on and on about this subject, about something that seems so simple. And once again, thank you for your comments. And I believe as you were talking, and you had a very good point, and I thank you for that, is we have to look at this as similar to the microbrewery business. If anybody is familiar with it, it's myself, and if you're not, then please, I beg you, go check them out. They're amazing, not just for the alcohol consumption, but the food and the entertainment and the value added they bring to the communities. The reason I bring that up, and if you're not aware of it, there's multiple breweries in many cities in this Southwest Michigan. Does one hurt more than the other because the other one is in the city? Absolutely not. If nothing else, in the brewery business, they benefit from those being in circumference to each other. But do they have to be next door? Do they have to be in the same town, on the same street? Absolutely not. If any given day, if you go out to Round Barn Public House, where are they at? They're not in any metropolis. They're in Baroda. You have to intentionally go to Baroda. Every business in Baroda is benefiting from that, okay? Same can be said with St. Joe. You can go to North Pier Brewing Company, or you can go up to Silver Harbor. Nowhere near each other. Everybody benefits. So what I'm saying is, in defense of what you said, and I appreciate you saying that, is to all of the business owners in town, if you think of it in this manner, you're going to benefit from other individuals either doing something better, different, or worse, and the consequences of doing worse are, we know what that is, right? So do it better, advertise stronger, whatever the necessities do to be a better business. You know, are you going to cry in the corner because he had a better opportunity, or are you going to show them that you have something different and be a differentiator between yourself and the other business, right? If you make X product and X type of beer and they make the same one, well, you better do something better because they're not going to stop making theirs. So I'm not trying to preach, but I do agree that that's part of being in business. And I think we are doing what's fair and what's right for the community, as Jeff had asked us to.
Any other comments? Yes, Commissioner Downey.
I would say that it's going to take more than just marijuana to make Buchanan successful. It's going to take a lot of different businesses to draw people in here. It's not just one thing, not just restaurants. I ask people all the time when they come into the restaurant, you know, what are other cities doing? What other businesses are surviving, you know, competing against Costco and Walmart? And it's just little niche shops here and there, so we need more of that. As I walk around the downtown, I see a lot of people that pull into Zen, and I take note now, and I watch them as they go in, as they come out. And right after they come out of the building, they jump in the cars and they disappear down the road. So they're not staying in here. They're not creating any foot traffic right now because of Zen being downtown. We have to offer something else. Maybe that's where the guys who were earlier from the SMEGA guys, they need to help us out with something like that. Yeah. That's all I had.
Okay. Anyone else have a comment? There is a motion on the floor, and there is a second. So, hearing no other comments, roll call, please.
Turney,
Yes.
Downey,
Yes.
Whedon,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Right.
Excellent.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all your hard work and your
Thank you.
Thank you
comments.
for yours.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate it. Okay, now item E, consider approval of 3 resolutions merging the inactive division to senior police, to division junior police, and reallocate assets to divisions 1 and 10. So all 3 divisions, 1, 2, and 10, are evenly funded in the city's Michigan Employee Retirement System Plan. Bill?
Mayor,
That's a
Commissioners,
mouthful.
as the mayor kind of reviewed, the Michigan Employee Retirement System has contacted us and said we are out of balance enough that they suggest that we, of the 4 funds that we have, the one which is the senior police officers, which we have no more actives in that area any longer, that the funding that is in that fund get balanced out in between the other 3 funds that we have, which are identified here, which is general, includes employees at City Hall, SCIU, local, and then the other police officers' fund. So the senior officers have been around for a long time. Their funding is quite a bit higher than the other funds. They would just like to balance that out, so all of those funds are equally funded, which puts us at nearly 100% funding across the board in our retirement. So they said, you heard our auditor, Plant Moran, make that suggestion. They gave you a report on the health of our retirement program and how it's funded. We are in the top 3% of the communities in the state of Michigan on the health of our retirement program. MERS has asked us to do this balance, supported by our auditor. So MERS also provided us with the 3 resolutions that they need to make those moves for us. And those were in your packet.
Are there any questions about this? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve those 3 resolutions.
I'll make a motion to approve the 3 resolutions, 2019.11, 201, 202, and 203, merging the inactive Division 20 Senior Police to Division 02 Junior Police, and reallocate assets into Divisions 1, 10, so that all 3 divisions are evenly funded in the city's Michigan Employee Retirement System plan.
Excellent. Thank you.
I would support this.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any further discussion on this item? Roll call, please.
Moore,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Downey,
Yes.
Turney,
Yes.
Whedon.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Very good. Thank you all for that. We are through our main business part. We're now back to public comments. Citizens are allowed up to 3 minutes to discuss any non-agenda item. Does anyone want to come forward?
Randall Kidd, 312 West Chicago Street. I got 2 particular items. One is DPW building, and Commissioner Whedon's final comment last 2 weeks ago, does it still flood? And having worked on the ad hoc water flow improvement, had several names, but we worked on clearing out the mud and sediment in the race to get the Pears Mill going again, and a bit of work in the creek. And it's well known what causes flooding. Given the amount of water comes in, and if it's restricted on the way out, it builds up to a higher level and becomes a flood. So the main thing we should be doing is to keep our waterways clear. 2 years ago in February 18, there was flooding all over southwest Michigan, particularly Kalamazoo was underwater quite a bit, Kalamazoo River, and Buchanan was not. The water was very high in the banks of both the creek and the mill race, but it didn't come over the side. And that was because it was flowing. It had just been cleaned out, of course, and was flowing very well. And I have let's say a bone to pick, but a criticism of our DPW, which, by the way, I think of when I drive past as a depressing place to work. That's what the initials stand for, because it's not kept up itself in terms of being an attractive place, and it also is surrounded by puddles and very uneven road surface going out to the fields, to the grounds. So everybody coming to play our teams has to drive past a dump basically, with a lot of deep water puddles on the way, and it wouldn't be very hard to make that into a slightly raised roadway that ran past DPW, and also it wouldn't be hard for the DPW personnel to plant a few attractive things like flowers, bushes, all sorts of things, and also paint where necessary on the building. I know there's been suggestions that we need another building, but I think you ought to insist on the DPW personnel producing a cost-benefit analysis for staying, moving, what has to be done. And when the question of the floodplain comes up, Bill said that he was going to be upgrading the floodplain area with the improved flow. And I don't know if that's underway or coming in spring or what, but the flowing situation is the same group, DPW people, should be cleaning out the waterways when there's trees growing in the water, small trees and things. That's what catches the floating debris and finally builds up behind a bridge and produces rising water. And so there should be a well-defined effort to keep both the creek and the race clear. And I noticed particularly just walking along the race by the fire station, there's bright green grass, I guess, or something growing on the mud at the bottom. So it's half as wide as it should be. Admittedly, when there's a lot more water, it might wash it away, or it might get washed somewhere and stop flow somewhere else. So I think there should be you should insist on a concerted effort to keep the waterways coming through the town clear, meaning somebody from the DPW has the job of monitoring the flow through town and improving it. 'Cause I complained about two big trees that had fallen across the river when we had that big flood area. No, they weren't in the water, they were just about an inch above the water. And so anything floating would jam underneath eventually. So that sort of thing should be taken care of too. And
Okay.
the other topic is question of...
If you can say it briefly, because you've already passed your 3 minutes.
Oh, I have thought.
Yes,
Yeah.
but go ahead.
No,
I'll
the-
grant you some extension.
Okay. The other topic is somewhat related, is the question of what we're doing with the ducks. And I think you might agree that if I was running a small farm or a small holding, whatever you call it, and growing ducks beside the side of the creek or the race or wherever, out of town even, if I every day took out a 25-gallon, 50-gallon tub full of duck excrement and tipped it in the race to get rid of it, somebody would be after me at some point when they saw it. And that's really what we're doing with the ducks in the park. And I mentioned once before that Denver has had a similar problem with geese, and I thought I'd give you one of these.
Well, you can just, why don't you hand the clerk as you finish your comments, because we'd like to give other people a chance to...
Right, okay. Well, that's basically the message.
Okay, thank you.
The state or the city or the county might be after us for dumping right into the creek, just above the most prolific beds for salmon and trout, which we're trying to increase in number, of course. So we're defeating our own selves.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there anyone else that would like to come up and give a comment? Okay, seeing no one rise. We are going to the city manager comments.
Real quick, the city hall schedule for this week, Thursday and Friday, we will be observing Thanksgiving holiday. We will be closed. Quick note, White Saturday is November 30th. There's a holiday parade, and the lighting of the common stage scheduled for that Saturday. The downtown lights have been put up. Looks kind of Christmassy ahead of Thanksgiving, but that's where the time and schedule caused us to be. So we're good.
Okay, let's start with you.
Okay. Randall, thank you once again for bringing up the DPW. It seems to be that the DPW is brought up as much as marijuana is nowadays. And the acronym you used for the DPW was comical at best, but maybe not necessary. But it does make me question why what took us to get here. Why did it take us so long to have this discussion? Because we've only been on the commission since November. The building didn't start to degrade in November of last year. And it makes me question is it the same thing that led us to the point where we had to purchase 2 new trucks for snow removal, right? Is proper maintenance being done? I realize we're past that time now and we absolutely need a new building, right? It is to a point where it is a safety issue, but I do believe Randall has a good point that other areas in the local communities flooded and Buchanan didn't. So did we service the building the way we should have leading up to this point? Do we need a new building? Yes. Did they service it the way they should have? No. And I think there needs to be, Chief, I don't know where we're at on the...
I have an engineer I'm talking with tomorrow who I'm hoping will provide us with a quote to do the research to answer the questions we have for that site.
Perfect. So. Awesome. Thank you so much. That's all I got.
No, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to go over, I'm on a couple committees. I'm on the Planning Commission. So I'd sort of give you the synopsis of what our last Planning Commission was. Under the old business, we reviewed the site plan for 501 River Street, which is the McCarthy drilling, and we approved that by a vote of 5-0. So it's just a minor detail on their footprint, so we got that approved. On the considered recommendations for the zoning, which we voted on tonight, it was 3-1 and 1 abstain. The considered request for the Pan Holdings LLC, Rick is no longer here, he's gone. And we approved that for the easement that he was looking for on a vote of 5-0, 4. And then we just considered the 2020 meeting schedule, and that was 5-0. As far as the landfill, let me get all my little notes here. On Friday, we usually have committee reviews, so that everybody who's on a committee, I'm on 2 committees for that. I'm on the financial committee, and we had a presentation for the prenuptial care fund, which is doing very well for the landfill. So we had a report on that. There was also a discussion for the SBR consulting and what would happen if the SBR lost electricity for a long period of time. I had asked Bill and JT, where would the city be? And the city says we have enough backup that they could withstand that in case the power was out for more than a few days. And so that was one of the concerns of the landfill. As far as the operations committee, I'm not on that one. One of the compressor or compactors went out. They have 2, so they can't be without one. They have to go and purchase another one. So they purchased that one for $883,000. So it's no cheap thing. So they had to do that. They had another repair that was for $27,000 for another what they call is a final drive for a Tri-City equipment and repair. Then they also had to spend $7,400 for a unisex bathroom and shower. So that was done on that too. Executive committee, they had nothing to really pass, and I'm not on that one. I'm on the human resources, and Tyler recommended a bonus for employees based on profit. He recommended $16,610.90 divided by 19 employees. This is approximately 3% of the fiscal year 2018-2019 profit. This would be a bonus for each employee, approximately $812 netting before taxes. $750 per employee would be gross after taxes. Unfortunately, the board, during discussion, wanted to go to the general meeting, which is on Monday. And again, unfortunately, they did not pass that. They refused to give these employees a Christmas bonus. Upon I tried to say, okay, we should be giving them something. You gave them $500 last year. That was my first year on the board. And I said, well, how about $250? So it ended up in a tie, 5-5. So it failed. So this year, those employees are not getting any bonuses, so I'm quite upset at that. So one other detail, nothing to do with committees. Unfortunately, we're heading into a Thanksgiving break with school kids and college kids. I recommend that you always lock your car doors. I had my car open for an hour and a half, and basically somebody went through it. They only took a couple hats. They had nothing else in there. However, there was, I think, Bill, you said there was 5 other people that had break-ins. And there was just a note you might want to add to the police. A neighbor came over and told me that about 9 o'clock on Sunday night they saw a group of teenagers, and when they looked at them, they put their heads down and scampered away. So it could be young people. So lock your cars. It gets dark early. Just want to let you know about that. That's it, Your Honor.
Thank you. Commissioner Downey?
No comments.
Commissioner Dennison?
My first comments are regarding Jeff Ray and the Niles Greater Chamber. I think we have our work cut out for us in the next few weeks. I think that we really need to discuss where we want to go with that going forward. Isn't, you know, as easy as it is to say, what have you done for me lately? What have they done with the $8,000 this year? Since Jeff Ray took over the South Bend Regional Chamber, they've had a lot of success, and he's done some really good things. And it's vitally important for our community to be tied in regionally with communities around us. And I think what I took from what he said tonight was, it's really on us. The impetus is on us. He has the staff. We need to be proactive in selling our community. So we have to tell them if we want them to promote us with videos, if we want them to promote us with literature, if we want them to promote us with commercials, with that sort of thing. And I think there's a great opportunity to do some good things through that chamber. Now that being said, I also think we need to figure out if we want our website. Right now, you click on economic development links on our website and it goes directly to the Greater Niles Chamber. So if somebody's looking at Buchanan and they click on economic development link, it shows Niles. And I kind of have a problem with that. I think something needs to be worked out there. So I think that's something else we need to think about. We had our first ad hoc DDA committee meeting last week. There was a really good turnout. There was a lot of people from the DDA were there. A lot of people from the public were there. The conversation was insightful and respectful and productive. The next meeting will be, actually I need to get with Brenda, but it's going to be right before the next DDA meeting. It'll be at 4:30 on December 11th, right before the DDA meeting. I wanted to, say thank you to everybody who came out to the meeting tonight. In particular, Jeff. I think what you said tonight, one of the reasons I ran was to leave Buchanan a better place. And I can only speak for myself, but I'm, I'm making decisions based on what I think will have the best long-term outcomes for the community. And so I can only speak for myself, but I have a feeling that that's why the rest of them are sitting up here too. But thanks for coming and thanks for your comments. That's all I have. It's here at City Hall.
Okay, my announcement is I'd like to say it's an emergency meeting, but it's not really emergency. Our regularly scheduled meeting of Friends of the Ducks will be tomorrow at 6:30. So I can guarantee we're not going to be collecting feces to dump in the creek, but if you love the ducks, which are like the city pets, please come and help us make sure they're well cared for this winter. So tomorrow here at City Hall, 6:30. Thank you. And now I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to MCL 15.268H to consider material exempt from disclosure.
I'll make the motion to go into closed session.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's have roll call, please.
Moore,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Downey,
Yes.
Turney,
Yes.
Whedon.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, everyone. We're going into closed session, and who knows? We'll be back. But thank you for everyone being here. We appreciate it.